Are British police too afraid of being called racist? It's time for tonight's head-to-head. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the government are now piling pressure on the police to ramp up this so-called controversial stop-and-search practice, saying that the priority should be tackling Britain's knife crime epidemic rather than attempting to appease campaigners who claim that it's discriminatory. Critics say that black people are disproportionately targeted, and the latest government figures show that they were 5 times more likely to be stopped and searched than white people. But there are countless examples of knife crime in Britain spiralling out of control in recent weeks. The shocking samurai sword attack in East London 2 weeks ago that left a 14-year-old schoolboy dead. The teenager jailed in Greater Manchester last week for stabbing Paul Marsh to death with a zombie knife. The 2 men jailed for life in Birmingham after they stabbed a 23-year-old footballer to death on a nightclub dance floor. And when the police do use their stop-and-search powers, this is what they can find. So there's a little clip here of them pinning someone down at a tube station, and you think, oh, grief. And you can see in the hand there a massive, massive, great big sword. Look at the size of that, just walking around the streets with it. That's so common. That is so common. So tonight I am asking, as the Conservatives are now feeling forced to tell our actual police force to bring back stop and search, to keep knives off the streets, are the police too afraid of being called racist to actually do it? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say or tweet me at GBNews. While you're there, make sure you go and vote in our poll. The results will follow shortly. But now, going head-to-head on this. Former police officer Norman Brennan and retired superintendent and author Leroy Logan. Chaps, thank you very much. Great to have you both on the show here now. Look, Leroy, I'll start with you. Do you think that the police are too afraid of being called racist to actually do proper stop and search in full force, do you think?
Well, I hear officers being, quoted as being, pensive and don't want to be called racist by using their powers. But that's nothing new. That was going on from when I was in the job, as far back as the 80s, that police officers are racist. I think everyone recognises the importance of stop and search. It is a good tool, but the importance of it is it has to be sharpened up by good intelligence, and the intelligence comes from the community. The more intelligence you have, the more you can target the people who are carrying the knives, other weapons and drugs, etc. But if you're alienating people by having a stop and search that's not based on intelligence and you don't have reasonable grounds, they're not going to work with you. It has to be a partnership. And for years, the stop and search that's been carried out nationally, as well as in the Met, has shown less than 5% of stop and search actually reveals a knife. They'll show you all sorts of, I've seen a whole brief on this thing today, but they don't show the actual percentage of stop and search, which actually is a positive. Most stop and searches actually uncover drugs, not weapons. And then the other thing is, you have to have the intelligence to know where these youngsters are keeping the knives, whether it's stashed in a lift shaft or anywhere in trees.
I'll get that. I'll come back to you, Leroy. I'll come back to you, mate, if that's all right. Because I just want to bring Norman in for now. Norman, I absolutely hear what Leroy is saying there. There will be people shouting at their TV screens now, saying, "Look, just stop and search people. If you've not got anything on you, it doesn't matter. You've been inconvenienced for a bit of your day. The main point is that people are being stabbed, in record numbers, etc. Should there be any qualms whatsoever about racial profiling when it comes to stop and search, Norman?
It's not a point of racial profiling. What it is, it's police officers working on the back of statistics. And if the statistics state that 60 or 70% of street murders, robberies, muggings and attacks are committed by young black boys or young black men, Leroy may say that's disproportionate. The police will say it is proportionate. You don't go out and stop 50% white people, 50% black people.
Yes, they do.
Just to keep the...
Yes,
Leroy, you've had your say. Leroy...
No, but they're doing Leeds and they're doing Glasgow. And it's white people they stop.
Well, OK, Leroy, I will bring you back in. Let Norman finish and I will come back to you, Leroy.
But it's quoting wrong figures.
Leroy, you've got to show some respect, my friend. You're not the only voice in Britain that you think is important. There's others that want to listen to an alternative
I'm just correcting you,
view.
Norman.
Right, Patrick.
I'm correcting you.
We do have to do one at a time, chaps. So go on, Norman. All right, and then
Right, let me put the statistics straight away. In the last 5 years, 138,000 weapons, mainly knives, have been seized off the streets of Britain, predominantly London. And let me blow that myth out the water. 300,000 people have been arrested as a result of stop and search. Now just think of how many murders have probably been prevented. How many stabbings have probably been prevented? We don't know, but that's how important the tool is. What is important, Patrick, as well, is that the police are telling me, especially in the Met, and I represent quite a few of them, not interested in stop and search. If I need to do it, I'll only do it if I have to. I don't want to get a complaint.
Right.
I don't want to have my bosses fail me. I don't want the courts to fail me. And the mayor and Theresa May, they're the two people that warned, and the mayor even threatened to take the Met to court to stop and search.
All right. Okay. Again, Norman, I'll come back to you. Leroy, look, is it fair to say that, unfortunately, stabbings, violent crime, drug dealing, etc., appears to be disproportionately affecting ethnic minority communities, certainly in London, maybe around the UK? Is that unfair to say? Is that untrue?
I know there's certain factors behind all sorts of crime, and it's not just on colour. It is around education, it's around deprivation, poverty, mental health. A lot of these knife crimes is around mental health. The young man that was killed in Hainault, Daniel Angerin, was killed by a white male who must be deranged. And if you look on all these social media, mysticism and all sorts of things. So that's one of the things we need to recognise. This is not just an enforcement issue. You can't stop and search your way out of this problem or arrest your way out of this problem. It has to be identifying these key people who are vulnerable to this thug life and glamorizing of weapons, and also education is the key. There's a combination between education and enforcement. I hear all the time about hundreds of people being arrested, but just like in Leeds, it's mainly white people are stabbing white people. In Glasgow, it's white people stabbing white people. So it's just take the colour out of it and use it in an intelligence-based way. All
right, OK. Norman, come back to that then.
Right, let's cut to the chase. You have to bring colour into it when it comes to London, because young black children and young black youths are killing each other. My colleagues, certainly family liaison officers, are at Moultries with black families. They are pleading, they're bereft, they want the police to do something about it. Some people in the black community complain. Well, I can tell you that these mothers and fathers who also live in the black community complain that their children are being murdered and they're planning funerals rather than futures. The time has come for the black community, certainly some within the black community, to look within, to take some responsibility and start getting their act together rather than blaming the police and anyone else for issues that they are partly responsible for. Because stop and search, I'm afraid, Patrick, will be reduced. It's reduced 44% in the past year or so, 44%. Okay. And my colleagues are telling me they're not going to be stopping and searching. And when you think that 3 years ago, we had the highest number of child homicide in London on record, 27 of those were stabbed. Almost every single one was a young black youth. So those that criticise the police on stop and search are basically saying to the police, stop and searching us, because you won't stop children killing each other.
All right, final word, Leroy, go on.
People are not saying don't use stop and search. They're only saying use it intelligence-based, not an a fishing expedition, not using sort of road traffic stop and then hiding the stop and searches as various reviews show. They want to work in partnership with you, and I am in the black community, and I don't need any lectures you to say we don't recognise that these youngsters are dying. We understand it, and we are working as much as possible with the police, but they want to see it's being carried out without fear or favour in an objective manner in partnership with the police. And it's a combination of education and enforcement.
Police work off the back of statistics. And if the statistics state that young black men are killing each other, And robbing
Well, it's
each
the
other
same
on
in
the streets.
Leeds.
It's
White
not
men
the
in
colour.
Leeds and
it's
white
the
men in
crime.
Glasgow.
lads.
It's the
Okay.
crime that the police.
Okay, all right, we've had it. That's a proper
It's the
head-to-head.
same thing in Glasgow,
All right,
mate.
guys, we'll draw. Can I thank you both very much for that? Good discussion, robust discussion, much appreciated. So that's former police officer Norman Brennan and retired superintendent and author Leroy Logan. Look, hey, who do you agree with on this? Are the police too afraid of being called racist to carry out stop and search? Either way, by the way, I cannot believe that it takes a government to have to encourage a police force to go and do stop and search in the middle of a knife crime epidemic. Anyway, Clive on X says, how many voting yes have spoken to a policeman about this or have just read it in the Daily Mail? Blue on X says they're just afraid, period. If a particular group are offending them, then it stands to reason that they will attract more attention. It used to be a regular occurrence in Northern Ireland to be stopped and searched. Good point, Des. I was a member of the security forces and it even happened to me when I was off duty. Oscar says, who cares? Their job isn't to be sensitive and constantly appease criminals. Their job is to uphold law and order, soft, ineffective, passive, completely incapable of handling any group perceived as a victim. Right, your verdict is in. Good grief. 97% of you agree that the police are too afraid of being called racist, while 3% of you say they aren't.